Ben Van Frank?
Okay.
He didn't do Anne Frank, but he did some of the other Alfred Newman scores. He
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
It's one of the Bernadette.
yeah, he did that.
Uh-huh.
What did he do? He did.
And,
Anyway,
we
there's
have
it's a
our
beautiful
cuts
CD
automatically.
if you can find it,
So
and
I'll
it's
just- we'll have to
transcriptions
resave
of
that point. History
scores.
cuts every
Yes,
10 minutes,
yeah.
but I
I
just
forget
keep
who
rolling
did the
it.
orchestration.
So, gotcha.
Might have been done.
Different people.
Different
because
people, I
Stoner
think.
did his own for Age of Innocence.
I think so, yeah, and it's just fantastic to listen to it. I mean, it sounds like that piece would be perfect for
But
him
that's
to
my,
do.
that's my input, that's my
Go
suggestion.
to Itzhak and say, here, baby, let's do this.
I mean, you know, it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
That'd be beautiful.
Williams also
Greg
is-
wants to speak. Yes, sir.
Oh, I just wanted to say, everyone, thank you so much for allowing us to be here. Thank you so much for doing this. I was just chatting with Mr. McKenzie a little while ago, saying that this is just as exciting for me as for Steve. I know that's hard to believe, but it really is. I mean, some of the scores that you gentlemen have been involved in, Old Gringo, The Beastmaster,
Oh, the Beast.
Into the Arms of Strangers, so many, The Greatest Miracle. My first film score when I was 10 years old was Jerry Goldsmith's soundtrack to Logan's Run.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's a great
since then, I've just been the world's biggest film music fan, or I thought I was the world's biggest film music fan until I met him.
Yeah, right.
You know, about a year ago, and we just hit it off. So to be here, you know, just for the number of people whose names I've been seeing on LPs, yes, I still have plenty of those, and CDs as well for many, many years, is just a great pleasure and an honor. So thank you so much.
That's great.
The first question I just wanted to ask, and like I said, I guess it'll just be akin to lighting a firecracker and tossing it into the arena and just watching what happens.
Okay.
I'd just like to know, how did you gentlemen come to first know Steve? I guess we'll just, well, obviously Irwin, we know how you came to know Steve, but, you know, we kind of went
Someone would tell me I'm
we
coming.
kind of went into that yesterday, you know. They've always kept it a secret from me. So I guess we'll just start and work our way clockwise. So, and please, time, I mean, every half hour we have to reset, but just please go on. We can always edit things a little later if we have to. So, please.
Let's see. Well, I'm Patrick Rust. You probably already know that.
Oh, I'm sorry. We will be doing a narration
Alright.
with the film, and everyone's background will be,
Okay.
will be
Alright.
made right, just to
Okay.
conserve time, so we can just jump right into
And
it.
you'll put Pat Ross underneath his picture.
right, exactly. We're thinking of doing kind of like a mugshot thing,
Right,
like,
yeah.
with the numbers down there. You know, like Russ, Pat, and the numbers on the bottom. Okay. So
In
we're
different languages too.
Right, we're still messing with that one. Okay.
Exactly. Well, I knew Miklos Rozsa, and I worked on his last couple of CD projects, and he had mentioned Steve because you folks were friends,
Yes.
and you had written a lot about his art. Rozsa always said that writers were useful, and what he meant by that was quite a compliment, because composers say what they have to say with notes, but we think about music with words. Rozsa wasn't a writer of his own history or his own art form, and he very much appreciated having a writer who was, and who could not only describe in really insightful detail what he was doing, but also put it in a social milieu and in a historical perspective. Composers can't really talk about themselves in history. They can't say, you know, I'm pretty good. it's not going to come over well. But if they have,
just
yes.
unseen.
But if you have a writer who knows that place and who can describe it really well, it's very useful for composers. And I think that's one of the reasons that everybody reads what you write, because you seem to have really good insights, and your reviews are almost like mini books in themselves, because you go through and you put them in historical perspective, and you always seem to zero in on the thing that's most important in the score and in the film itself. So I guess I heard Steve's name a long time before I met him, which was only just last year.
Yes, over pizza.
That's right.
Over pizza. It's a good way to meet.
Yeah.
So, and of course, you've known him for a very long time.
I can honestly say he ain't heavy, he's my brother.
To quote a
And I'm
famous
not
song.
heavy because I just did Jenny Craig.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, I met Steve through the internet, like so many people meet these days. Combination of Facebook and emails, and then you sent me some articles to read, and I was, what Pat says is very important. I think the difference that I found, because there's a lot of people that write about film music and there's a lot of criticism, but what I found with Steve was very thoughtful, well-written articles. And as you say, going into the depth and understanding the art form. And that's a big difference between a critic who writes for a newspaper and just takes pot shots and half the time has the history wrong, or doesn't even know what he's been listening to, or he or she. But I think it's very important that there are people that will write thoughtfully and seriously about an art form. And that's how we became friends. I started reading what you wrote, and then little by little we started sending emails back and forth, and here we are.
Yeah, we finally met in person 3 years ago this summer.
Yes, we went to lunch together.
Yeah,
so
now we have our annual.
I don't know if we had pizza, but we had something, you know.
Black bean soup.
Oh, okay, whatever. We met over. So there's a theme here. We all meet over food, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Speaking of, he ain't heavy.
Well, I have worked with Greg Nestor for, I don't know, lots of years. Greg's copied
15,
most
16,
of
yeah.
my scores, all of my scores, I think. And Greg just sent me an email one day and says, hey, have you ever read anything by Steve Vertlieb? And I was like, no, I don't know who he is. So he sent me some of the things he'd written.
Yeah.
And I started reading them, and I was so taken, Steve, I was taken by, I saw in your writing kind of what I think I try to do with the music that I write, which is, you know, there's an emotional core that I try to put in the music that I found in your writing, so that it wasn't just academic, kind of informational, flaunting of knowledge kind of reading. It had a humanity to it that I have not seen in anybody else's writing, and so that's, and of course as you get to know you, Steve, if you get to know Steve, you'll find that there's something so completely authentic about your communication with people. There's no kind of trying to, you know, do self-aggrandizement. There's no inner kind of agenda. It's just Steve bearing his passion for this art form of film music. And so I think somehow I wheedled out of Greg your email address. And I just said, hey, you know, I really love your writing. And then, you know, we began to know each other, and then we had our whale watching lunch last year. It was great fun with Pat and Greg.
Yeah, and Erwin.
And Erwin, yeah.
And there was pizza.
And there was pizza.
Lots of
See, here we go, food again. You know.
Yeah,
There's a theme here.
yeah.
And I think in my particular case, Juliet Rozsa had, I had recorded a number of Rozsa works and arranged them for 2 guitars. And Juliet Rozsa mentioned to Steve about me. We started to talk. And one thing that really impressed me about Steve's writing was the only other fellow that I had hung out with who was such a great writer also was Tony Thomas. And Tony Thomas did so much in writing about film music, and so I had that perspective. I said, well, here's a fellow who writes at that sort of level, with that sort of humanity, but it's not stuffy, it still talks, and still really, really works.
Yeah.
Everything about it.